Okay, so Cash Took Bowcraft here. This is the 48-inch short bow that I've been working on. It's been the last episode we showed backing the bow with sinew, and as we did the last time, we only backed it with one layer of sinew. And if you can see the profile of the bow, it kind of pulled it in reflex just a little bit. I also reflexed the limbs before I put the sinew on, but after the sinew dried, it pulled them up just a little bit. You might not be able to tell, but I could tell right off the bat after it dried. This thing's been drying for, I don't know, about 3 weeks. It didn't really need to dry for 3 weeks. I just haven't had the time to work on it until now. And so I think it's been about 3 weeks, maybe longer, since we put the sinew on, and since then and now. So it's been about 3 weeks, maybe even closer to a month. But anyway, the sinew is pretty hard right now. I haven't strung the bow yet. What I'm going to do right now is put on some rawhide. I'm going to back the bow with rawhide, and this rawhide is, you can see that it's very thin. I think this is goat rawhide from a goat. My friend Caesar at Legionnaire's Archery sent me this rawhide. Comes in 2 pieces, and I got it actually a couple, maybe like last week or a couple of weeks ago. And what I have to do right now is I'm going to soak these in water, get them all softened up, and then I'm just going to take some regular Titebond wood glue and glue it onto the back of the bow here. And when these things get softened up, I'll turn the video back on and show you how I apply it to the bow. But anyway, so this is I think this is video number 9 of the short bow build along. Okay, so what I'll do is when I get this stuff softened up in the water, I'll turn it back on and tape myself putting the rawhide on the back of the bow. Thanks. Okay, so I've got the rawhide soaking in some warm water, and I'll just keep it in here. It's already a little bit soft, but it's still kind of stiff. So I'll just keep this in here for a while, and when it gets soft, we'll turn the camera back on. We'll turn the camera back on and show you guys how I adhere it to the bow. Okay, so we've got the rawhide soaking here, and this is as soft as it's going to get. So what I do, I take it out of the water and I dry it off, you know, get all the excess water off of it. Got a paper towel here that I'm just soaking up all the excess water off the rawhide. And it occurred to me what I probably should have done was cut these down to the size or the length that I wanted, because I'm going to use 2 pieces, so you know they're kind of long, and I need to cut them in half so that it'll fit on the bow, you know, half and half. So I'll probably cut this one at least right now. Actually, it's probably about the right size, because they shrink a little bit when you get them wet. I'll just cut this one down a couple of inches. take this one out. Dry it off. These pieces are just barely wide enough to cover the entire bow, or the entire width of the bow. So if this bow was a little bit wider, this rawhide would be too thin. But anyway, so there you go. I've got them pretty much laid out to where the length that I need them to be. I thought that I was going to have to cut them shorter because one piece of rawhide came up, when I first unrolled it, came up to about here, so I thought I'd have to cut it, but these things shrink pretty much when I had them soak them in the water, so I think it'll be okay. And I'll put this other one on this limb here and get it going. So I'm gonna turn the camera off, and when I get back set up, I'll have the glue ready to lay down. Okay, so we're back. I'm just going to use this Type Bond 3 to lay down on the back of the bow here, and then I'm going to lay the rawhide on top of it. So just like the last time, you want to put down a thin coating of glue so it'll size into the sinew. I'm just going to do one limb at a time. Just let that sit for a few minutes. Take off all the excess that goes down on the outsides here. I think that's good enough. Now I'm going to put down another layer of glue, a little bit thicker this time. So I want to make sure that that rawhide don't come off or delaminate from the limb once I get it glued on there. Spread it evenly. And then what I do, I do the hair side of the rawhide. I put the hair side up on top and the inner portion of the rawhide on the bottom. That's just how I do it anyway. So I'm going to put this on here. Clamp here just to hold it in place. Clamp on this side to hold that in place. You can see that the rawhide is curling up, and that's okay, because what I'm going to do is take this ace bandage and then wrap the limb all the way up to hold the rawhide down flat against the bow. So I'll get that going, and then I'll turn the camera back on when I get that done. Okay, so I got the ace bandage wrapped around the rawhide and the limb, and what you want to do is, after you get this on, you want to squeeze out any air bubbles that might be in the limb, and just check it from time to time and make sure that all the air bubbles are squeezed out, and make sure that rawhide is sitting flat on the limb. I've got enough glue on there, and what happens is the ace bandage, you know, there's little openings and stuff in here, and it allows the air to get in to help dry the glue, because you don't want to wrap it with saran wrap or anything like that, because there won't be enough air in there to help dry everything out. So there you go, there's one limb done. I'm going to do the other limb in a few minutes. So there you go. Okay, Cashtook Bowcraft again. We're doing the other limb now. I have the first or one side of the limb done, and I got a little bit better setup here to where I've got it clamped to the bench and the limb is hanging off the bench. That way it gives me a little bit more room to, when I wrap the rawhide on the limb, I have more room and an easier time of wrapping the limb instead of holding it. This is the way I usually do it anyway, but on the first limb there, I was kind of distracted with the filming, and I don't know, I just didn't think about what I was doing. But anyway, this is a better setup, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and lay on the other piece of rawhide here. Get a clamp here and hold this down. Stretch this over. A little bit of glue over here. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this end. Got to keep, make sure you keep the ends or the rawhide overlapping the edges of the bow. This piece of rawhide here is kind of thin, so it just barely fits on the limb. Because you want to make sure you get full coverage of the rawhide over the limb, so that it covers the entire limb. As you're wrapping this stuff, you want to make sure you squeeze out all the air bubbles if there are any, because you don't want any air bubbles between the rawhide and the limb. Good part about this ace bandage is that it's that sticky stuff that sticks to itself, so you don't have to really clamp it down or anything, and just keep wrapping it around and it'll stick right to itself. And once you get it done, you know, you press it out, make sure that that there's no air bubbles in between. And then in the middle here where the two pieces meet, I'm just going to wrap some duct tape or masking tape around it just to hold it down in place so they don't stretch apart. And that's it. That's how I rawhide back a bow. We'll open this thing back up. We'll take off all this ace bandage tomorrow, and hopefully the glue held and the backing will be on. Okay, so so there you go. We're gonna post another video when I'm all done, and then we'll probably string it up tomorrow and do some shooting with it. And then after that, we'll paint the rawhide, put a nice design on the back there, and then hopefully finish up this bow. Anyway, Cash Stick Bowcraft.